Welcome to the Dug in a Pub podcast, where I share thoughts, stories, and conversations about my life and my journey post-suicide attempt.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
So pull up a stool and let's see if we can change the world.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
So welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the Dug in a Pub podcast. Just so you know, the sound is a little off on this one. I didn't realize I was using the wrong microphone when I was recording the episode, but just left it the way it is.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
So this is what I did after I woke up to when I started to really figure out who I was and moving forward. Thanks for listening and ask me questions. Thanks. So I woke up on the floor of my office. It's funny, I didn't get nauseous or throw up or anything, but I woke up, looked at my watch or my phone, whatever it was. It was like 3:30 in the morning. So I got up and I stumbled upstairs to the bed. At this point, we were still sleeping in the same bed. So I stumbled upstairs, went to bed. About 11 o'clock in the morning, or thereabouts, I stumbled downstairs and I couldn't stand upright. So I kind of just stumbled down the stairs, threw myself on the couch, and I was waiting for Kelly to get home. You know, the kids were up doing their things, and I was just laying on the couch, kind of drifting in and out. So Kelly got home, and she was in the kitchen doing some stuff, and I stumbled over there, and I told her what I did. She's like, oh, you know, and she had her reaction, you know, like, why are you awake kind of thing. So I think she called the doctor, and they said, well, if it's been 12 hours, just keep an eye on him. And, yeah, I'm like, whatever. So then I went back to the couch, and then a little while later, she came and got me and said, I got to take you to the hospital so you can take you. I said, okay. So I don't know what we do with the kids. If she just left the kids at home, because, you know, my daughter was, 16? So I think she left the kids at home and called my parents for them to come over to keep an eye on the kids. Took me to the hospital, you know, admitted me for, suicide attempt. Apparently in Wisconsin, or maybe it's Waukesha, when there's a suicide attempt, the police get involved. So the police showed up and, you know, what happened, what'd you do, yada, yada, yada. And I told them, you know, Kelly ran home to get the bottle of Tylenol so they could count how many were gone. And, I think it was 98. I took 98 extra strength Tylenol. So she went home to get those. You know, they were checking me into the hospital. It was too late to pump my stomach. So they, you know, did a bunch of blood work and stuff. And Mom and Dad showed up. And, you know, there was a lot of crying and tears. But, you know, I was already kind of the mindset that the suicide attempt was the past. And I was not there anymore. So I was moving forward. So, yeah, then they took me and they admitted me into the hospital. They took my phone, and so I really couldn't talk to my boss. He was trying to call me, but I wasn't, you know, getting back in touch with him. So I had to make up a near story to let him know why I was out of contact for a week. Told him I accidentally overdosed on one of my medicines, and since it was accidental, they treated it as a suicide attempt. And just wanted to keep an eye on me to make sure I was actually okay, which is close to the truth, close enough for what they needed to know. So yeah, then they admitted me to the hospital. So that was Sunday night. Yeah, they started giving me this stuff, which is like 1 million rotten eggs and match heads in a glass. They were mixing it with orange juice, and I said, God, don't mix it. So I was just drinking a shot. It was probably the worst thing I've tasted. But, you know, they were checking my liver levels, and they kept getting worse and worse. So I still figured that there's a fair chance I was going to die. At one point, the doctor said, well, this is, once this number hits, you know, this level, we'll know your liver's shutting down because it starts to release ammonia and your brain stops working right. So you'll start to talk gibberish, and then you're going to die. I'm like, okay, you know, literally nothing I can do about it at this point. It's, you know, I made the decision. I did what I did. And what was going to happen was going to happen. So my level kept going up. Then all of a sudden the next day, level dropped way back down after drinking all the shots of that sulfur round egg crap. It binds with something in your liver. I can't remember what it was called. So yeah, then that was, I think Wednesday or Thursday. So then Friday, I think it was Thursday night, they're going to move me to the psych floor. And then there's going to be a mandatory 3-day hold. So I'm like, okay, again, when I was saying, I'm completely out of any control here. I'm just in the system now. So yeah, they took me down and we had some group sessions, and wow, that put my woes and troubles into perspective to the point where I have nothing to complain about. My wife left me. Big fucking deal is really what I learned from some of the other people that were in the psych ward with me in some of the group sessions. Yeah, I had nothing to complain about. I'm just a middle class white guy whose wife got tired of him. Um, so yeah, I learned that from there, and then Friday morning, or is it Thursday night? The psychiatrist or psychologist who works on the psych ward came in, introduced himself. We had a chat. Why'd you do it? What are you doing now? Do you have a plan going forward? And I told him, about plan A, plan B. I said, that was plan A. I said, now I'm on plan B. I said, I'm not looking back. I've made promises that I would never make another attempt. And, I haven't broken a promise yet. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm golden. I'm moving forward. I'm not going to revisit that situation or get back in that mindset. So we chatted about half an hour, and he said, well, I don't see any reason why I can't go home tomorrow. He said, before you leave, you need to have an appointment with your psychologist. So I did. I made an appointment with him right away. I was going to see him like 2 weeks after I got out. Yeah, and then Friday I went home. So that was December 11th. The 12th was the day I woke up. So the 17th was the Friday, and that's when I went home from the hospital. And that's when I started to do all this reevaluation, to do all this work, to do all the figuring out of who I am, what I am, where do I want to go. But it all started with why. And that's what the next episode is going to talk about is the word why. Spent a lot of time with that word, a lot of time struggling with the whys of everything that had happened to me. So that's going to be the bulk of the next episode, is just the word why and how I deal with why and my viewpoints on the word just in general now. Because that's the first thing I really struggled with. But yeah, so I got home, went to work that following Monday, told my bosses what happened. I apologized for being out of touch, but this is what happened, and it took my phone, and yada, yada, yada. And they seemed okay with that. I mean, I worked there another year, so they couldn't have been too unhappy. I think that's when I started to sleep on the couch or an air mattress in the living room. I can't remember at what point I moved my bedroom. In our basement, I had a home office. And at one point, I moved a bed down there, all my clothes, a dresser, and I kind of made it into a little 8-foot by 12-foot. I called it my bedroom office closet. So I moved down there just because I needed that separation, and it's that alone time to be by myself. I was still pretty withdrawn, but I was in my own head trying to figure myself out and figure out how to move forward. And the thing that really, at first being in that bedroom office closet, that tiny room was crushing. She's the one who left me. Why do I have to sleep in the basement? And yada yada yada. And what I did, I finally made a realization. But as long as I complain about it, as long as I have that viewpoint on that room in the house, I'm always going to be unhappy. So I said, you know what? Screw it. This is my apartment. The door locks. So when I'm not home, the door is locked. I have a key. And I put up my own art. I put up pictures of my friends. And I really, I looked at it as I claimed that room as my own. This is my apartment in the house. Nobody can go in it without me there. It's locked. I had the only key. And that helped a lot. Again, it's one of those perspective things. It's certainly not where I would have chose to be living. I couldn't afford to live anywhere else or move out of the house. So I just claimed that room in the basement. I didn't do that right away. It took me a while to figure that portion of it out. But yeah, I spent a lot of time sleeping in the living room and not sleeping, a lot of crying. And, my former wife and I had a lot of conversations about the relationship. She said, well, what if we just start over again? And after Owen turns 18, we can split. And I'm like, no, it's too late. It's you've made the decision, and the same decision I was going to make just down the road. The decision's been made. Why go backwards now? I kind of knew it was coming, just because I knew I wanted out. Why would I put myself back in the relationship knowing it's going to end in a few years? It just seemed really some counterproductive to growth. So we talked about that, and obviously we backed away from that. One of the things I did in early December, joined meetup.com to try to find friends. So I joined a couple of divorce groups and had a lot of fun meeting people. And I'll kind of we'll actually go into that on this episode. So one of the things I did, like I said, was going to meetup.com, and I'm a very socially awkward person, still relatively stuck in my Asperger's brain. But what I did when I started going to these divorce group meetings, we'd get together and play trivia or go to karaoke, just go to a bar and hang out, go bowling, whatever, just to be around people who are in the similar situation is basically what that was about. So people who know what you're going through, who have been there themselves, and we can all just kind of help each other along as we figure this shit out. But what I did, because I was so awkward and uncomfortable, I decided the only way I was going to do this was to pretend to be the person I wanted to be. So I'd go out to these meetup groups and, public places, people I don't know, strangers. I never really had a filter, so I could always talk about myself. I never had an issue doing that. But what I had to learn to do, and was learning to do, was to listen to other people when I talked to them. I was terrible at that, really, really bad. I could talk at people for days, and they would gloss over and walk away, and I'd chase them around the house saying, no, listen, I'm not done with my story. So I had to learn to read people, to watch people, to participate in the typical social exchange. All while the whole time, the Doug in the back of my head was screaming, "Go home, go home, go home." But I knew the only way I was going to go forward is if I learned how to be social, learned how to make friends, and learned how to exist in a world of other humans where I had to talk to strangers. Which is funny because I was in sales and my job was literally to talk to strangers. But this is different, it was personal. It was me, not sales guy Doug. So yeah, the meetup groups are really nice for me. Saved my life, absolutely. Just got me out of my own head, got me into a space where I could start to relax and figure out who I was again and who I wanted to be and how to interact with the world. After 19 years of an unhappy marriage, just to learn to exist again, because I had stopped existing. I barely did. I went to work, I watched my movies and TV shows, and that was about it. And then I interacted with the family when necessary. So not necessarily good, but that's what I did. So that was one of the first things I did. I also auditioned for a play, which I've always wanted to do as a bucket list item. So I auditioned for a play in December, early December. I didn't get the part, which I'm probably pretty happy about. I don't know if I can memorize lines, but I auditioned for a play. That was a real stepping that far outside my comfort zone was amazing, truly an amazing thing. That's where I really started to understand that life begins outside your comfort zone. So even going to the meetups, that's one of the mantras I really held on to. Right after getting back home from the hospital was, okay, I have to do things that make me uncomfortable because that is where life is. That is where I'm going to find joy and friendship and adventure and all the good things. If you're in your comfort zone, there's nothing there. Everything in your comfort zone is stuff you know, and it's not necessarily good. It's just what you know. It's all stuff that's habit. It's all stuff that's safe. It's all stuff that, in most cases, holds you down and holds you back. And so as I learned to go way outside my comfort zone, as I learned to interact with other people, that's what I started to really start to put the thought into. Okay, so I'm 3 weeks post suicide attempt. How do I move forward? How do I get to a point that's a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How do I work on myself? How do I do this? I did see my shrink. Told him what happened. I saw him the one time and that was it. I never went back on my antidepressants after the suicide attempt. I didn't drink for like 3 months or take any Tylenol. But everything I've done, I I did it myself. I forced myself to be hypervigilant in my thought. I started to pay attention to the internal words I was using, which I'll go into more. And that's what a lot of this for me has been, is just word choice and precision of language. So yeah, those first couple of weeks, forced myself outside my comfort zone, forced myself to meet people and be social, started to learn how to be hyper vigilant with my interactions with the world, to pay attention to how people acted when I talked to them, and if there was something I said they didn't like, and how to react to that, and really, and hopefully, how to listen. Hopefully, I'm still getting better at how to listen to people. As humans, we listen in order to respond, and I try to get better at that, not listening to respond, but listening to listen, and hopefully help, not just respond. So yeah, that's what I was doing in those first couple of weeks, was just, not even putting together a roadmap yet, because it was, a lot of these changes I made, a lot of these things I've done since then weren't like, I'm going to learn how to not be judgmental. I'm going to learn how to do this or that. Most of it wasn't that. It was just, I'm unhappy with myself. I don't think I interact with the world in a good and productive and healthy manner. How do I learn to be happy with myself, to be comfortable with myself, to understand that I'm okay, that I'm a good person, that I have value, that even though life sometimes is unbearably hard, that something better is down the road. So that's what these first few weeks were for me. So yeah, from waking up to the first few weeks, and I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which was an amazing book. That was, God, no, that was later in the year. That was in the August, September time frame. So yeah, from January, February, March. I know by March I was living in my basement, so probably February is when I moved in there. But yeah, I'd spend a lot of time just, how do I learn to human? How do I become a better person? How do I get to where I want to be? And that's what the rest of this the next 10 or so episodes is going to be. I'm hoping to give some actually concrete advice as, here's the word why and how I've learned to interact with it. And some of the words that I've used and learned not to use, some of the habits I've developed, some of the basic philosophies I've developed that have helped me through all this. Because, I'm hoping to help. If I survived an unsurvivable suicide attempt, figure I'm here for a reason. I've had enough people say, thank you for sharing your story. You've actually saved my life, which is freaky and humbling. And I try not to think about that, because sometimes it's honestly a little too much and it's weird. But I'm glad to have done it. I'm glad to have been the voice in the dark that they heard, to be the spark that gave them the ability to step back from the ledge to start moving forward again. So yeah, that's kind of the relaunch. These first 3 episodes to kind of give you a backstory of from what happened, and now hopefully get to the meat of who I am now and how I interact with the world, and hopefully offer some good advice. Please ask questions. Doug at doginapub.com is my email address. My website is doginapub.com. Any question you want to ask, anything, literally. Obviously, I'll talk about anything. I'm not worried about saying anything about myself. It's all I have. All I have is me, and all I have are my stories, my experiences. And if any way those can help anybody else figure out more of the world, yay. That's why I'm here. So, love one another. Love everybody. Life's a team sport, and we're all on the same team. Thank you. Bye-bye.